Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning, and welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Tuesday. And yes, Halloween month is here upon us. Can you believe that? Thank you so much for joining in, and always a pleasure to have you here with us on Storytime, whether you're joining us live right now. Of course, today we're here at 7, but usually here at 6 a.m. Pacific time. And of course, remember too that you can always catch the recordings at 11 a.m. Pacific time and anytime at your convenience. So whether you're joining us live right now or later on for the recordings, well, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for being a part of Storytime. Thank you for being a part of the different worlds that our books take us to. Thank you so much for joining in. Please, as always, let us know where you're joining in from and who is joining in with you. How is it where you are? Out here in Oakland, it has been getting cooler and cooler. I can feel it in the mornings. If I'm in shorts now, I'm preparing to have my my joggers on. So if you're out here in Oakland, please be sure to have a sweater in around you and maybe a blanket while you're staying up late. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. And of course, I hope that where you are, it has cooled down, but to only the right levels, the only comfortable levels right now. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, remember too that you can find Storytime at storytimewithmrlimada.com, at Storytime with Mr. Limada on Facebook and YouTube. And today we do have special guests that are coming here to Storytime, and a wonderful book to boot. So thank you for joining in. Get ready for that. Get comfortable, get cozy. They will be joining us very shortly. We'll be reading Leo plus Leah coming right up. And we do have our guest, Monica Wesolowska, and illustrator of this book, Kenard. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. And yeah, cannot wait to hear the story behind this wonderful book. And of course, the book itself too, and the math around it all. I am excited for all of us to learn together. And yeah, thank you for being here. To everybody that joins in Storytime, please keep sharing with your friends. Let them know we're here sharing wonderful books. And of course, a big thank you as always to creatives like the two that we have here today. And of course, the publishers that have allowed us to read so many wonderful books here on Storytime. Thank you so much for joining in. And just to look ahead, what's coming up on Storytime, we have amazing guests. Like we mentioned today, we have Monica, and we do have Ken as well. Not Ken from Barbie. No, we have Ken right here, illustrator, with us. And then, of course, too, on tomorrow, we'll have Nadia Solomon joining us. And then on Thursday, we do have Angela Henderson with us as well. And many more guests to come next week as well. But for now, we have all those amazing people to look forward to here on Storytime. Thank you so much for joining in. Let us see who is with us this morning, ready to enjoy a wonderful story. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. Amanda West, how are you doing? You say good morning from Amanda in sunny and blue Illinois. Sarah and Nathan will tune in to watch after school today for sure, because a book that connects the world using math is definitely worth making time for. Oh my goodness. I think that is our motto for today. That is definitely our slogan for today. A book that connects the world using math is definitely really worth making time for. I love it. Thank you so much for joining in, Amanda. And of course, Sarah and Nathan, later on when you're here, well, hugs to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Storytime. And good morning to you. How are you doing today? Kathy out in Ohio. And of course, Luna, sending you lots of love. Thank you so much for being here with us on Storytime. Good to see you. Good morning to you, Ari. How are you doing today? And of course, Megan out in Kentucky, and you're saying it is sunny and bright out there today. Well, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy it. I hope that means some outside time later on after story time, of course. Thank you so much for joining us on Story Time. Good morning to you out in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Pamela Courtney, how are you doing today? Say we're loving the cool mornings for our classes. Well, that is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Waving a cheerful hello from Chad and Auntie Pam, smiling all the way from Natchitoches, Louisiana. Thank you so much for being here. Excited about our visitors. Welcome to the Storytime family. And talking about visitors, thank you, Pamela Courtney. The perfect segue. Please join me in welcoming to Storytime today the amazing guests that we have today. Let's start off by introducing Ken Pack. Welcome to Storytime, Ken.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Peter, thank you for having Monica and I. We're really excited to present our book to you. I believe Monica's going to do a little reading, and then I'm going to show you some artwork and some of the process that I use to make the art. So we're bright and early, but we're going to have lots of fun.
And thank you so much, Ken. And please join me in welcoming Monica. Welcoming back, Monica, to Storytime. Monica, you're becoming a fixture on Storytime now.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I want to come, regularly. Yeah, it's so great to be back. I'm so delighted that Ken is joining us.
Yeah.
Because the art in this book is spectacular. And yeah,
it is absolutely it is. And I was thinking the whole time, I was like, it kind of, I was trying to remember yesterday we talked about just thinking, you were trying to describe what the art was like, but then I was trying to think too. I was like, oh, it had elements to not exactly the same, but it had elements of John Klassen in it, I thought too, like some of
yeah.
especially
John's a hero of mine, and I
me
think
too.
for a lot of us, so but that graphic approach is always fun to do.
Amazing. So
although I'd say that it's a little more colorful than a lot of John's books.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, John is definitely more browns for sure. Yeah. But just just to start us off, where are you joining us from? Let's start with you, Monica.
I am in Berkeley, California,
far
just
away,
over the border from you, Peter, Mr. Lamada. Yeah. That's actually, I'm one of those rare birds. I grew up in Berkeley, so I'm about a mile from where I grew up. My mother's still over there in my childhood home.
Oh wow,
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. How about you, Ken? Where are you joining us from today?
I'm talking to everyone from Glendale, California. So I'm not from here. I've been around. I'm originally from Baltimore.
Go Ravens, go Orioles.
Yeah, go O's, right? Postseason. I'm no stranger to the Bay Area. We still go up there. But right now I'm here in sunny California, Southern California. So.
Yeah. And is it sunny today? Is it sunny today? Or I know it's just the big start of the day, but has it been sunny this week?
It was actually rainy Saturday over the weekend, which I love. So we had some clouds, but overall it's always sunny here, and that's very nice. But the weather has cooled, and I think everyone's ready for a really nice fall.
Nice. And talk of fall, you mentioned fall, and I noticed that in your book you use autumn, and I was just curious as I was looking at that. I know they're interchangeable, but I know that in the US I've mostly heard fall, so I was quite curious when autumn was used in this one. I just wondered too, like what do you use most? Do you find yourself using one over the other, or how did you end up using fall versus autumn versus fall in this one?
Yeah, But yeah, you mean the actual word, right? I
Yes,
think when I'm
that's the word.
yeah, when I'm talking, I say fall for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm a word person, and the idea that fall could accidentally sound like falling down, or I needed to make it more of an official sounding season, and the book progresses through the seasons. We've got autumn, winter, and spring. We don't have summer, but because it's a school year, and so it just seemed funny to say fall, winter, and spring.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No. I was curious, and it's always good to get that thinking behind, like that went into that. But I knew there was something there.
Yeah.
I was looking at that. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here, both of you. I know that, and I could talk your ear off, but I know that the people are here to see you and hear about all your amazing work. And we're going to go for a short break. And then when we come back, Monica, you can lead us into the reading. And then, of course, we'll get into Ken sharing as well. So we'll be right back after this short break. And from that, Monica will be reading to us. So here we go. See you after this short break. Thank you for being here with us on Storytime today.
Hello, I'm Olalu Ogunyemi, officer in the United States Marine Corps and author of Crow from the Shadow. You are tuned in with my brother on Storytime with Mr. Lamada. Enjoy, and God bless.
Yes, there you go. Olaolu Ogunyemi joining us. And please, if you've not checked out Crow from the Shadow, do that. It is an amazing book with a powerful lesson in it too. And just a wonderful friend of Storytime. If you missed it, please do check out that conversation that we had here on Storytime. For now, we're going to be passing it on to Monica for our reading. Are you using the digital copy, or will it be...
So I thought that maybe before I even read the book, I would share a little something about the Fibonacci sequence, if that's okay. Yeah, because
absolutely.
Yeah, so for any kids out there, or your adults who doesn't know that word, Fibonacci sequence, it's pretty fancy sounding term, but it's a pretty easy math concept to learn. And I bring it up because the book is kind of subtly all about the Fibonacci sequence. So I'm going to share this little graphic with you. Here we go. Let's see if this works. Here we go. So I'm assuming you can all see that. So it's called the Fibonacci sequence. And to get the math is pretty simple. It's a pattern like this: 2, 4, 6, 8. If you know that's a pattern that goes up by 2s. 3, 6, 9. That's a pattern that goes up by 3s. The Fibonacci sequence always starts with 0 and 1. And if you add them together, you get 1. So if any kids are out there and want to do that math, there we go. To get the next number, you always add the previous 2. So in this case, that would be 1 plus 1. And that equals 2.
I thought that was 11, Monica. 1 plus 1 is 11. No?
Yeah. If you take out the plus sign. So, and then 1 plus 2, that's the previous 2. You get 3. 2 plus 3, you get 5. 3 plus 5, you get 8. And it goes on forever. So you see it gets really, really big, really fast. That's really cool and exciting for kids, that numbers can go on forever and get really big. But the other cool thing for me is that it shows up a lot in nature. So for example, these apple blossoms have 5 petals, and these cosmos have 8 petals. And like, you can find flowers that have all sorts of different Fibonacci numbers of petals. Also, really amazingly, here's a sunflower. I don't know how many petals that has, a lot. But the thing about sunflowers is if you look at the center of a sunflower, you see how it looks like there are spirals. If you count the spirals, very often, the spirals in one direction will be a Fibonacci number, and the spirals in the other direction will be the subsequent Fibonacci number, which is kind of mind-blowing. Also, this is called a Fibonacci spiral. If you see the squares here are Fibonacci numbers 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. So that is a specific kind of spiral that increases in a very particular way. So, I'm not going to show you that yet. All right. So that is just a little bit about the Fibonacci sequence. So, and I bring it up because, as I said, the book is based on it. I am going to share it electronically, but first I just wanted to hold the book. You know, it's just books, holding books is so amazing. And so here's the cover. That's where you always start a book, right? Leo plus Leah. You can tell maybe there's some math involved because there's a plus sign. I bet you can guess it's about a boy named Leo and a girl named Leah. You might guess that there's some nature involved. Ken did this wonderful job. If you open the book all the way, you can see there's a whole field. And if you're looking really carefully, you can see there's a tree here that's in blossom, an apple blossom or a cherry blossom tree. Up here, you can see there's a bird flying. These are all significant. And the back just tells us that it's a beautiful friendship story inspired by the Fibonacci sequence and cleverly constructed using its pattern. And then I just also wanted to say another thing about the physical book that you can't see electronically and that I didn't get to see until I received the book is that Ken did this amazing yellow end papers. So when you first open the book, it's like, the sun is coming up or whatever. I'm going to be asking Ken why he chose that particular color. I'm sure he has a really interesting answer. So when I said that the book follows the Fibonacci sequence, what I meant was that each word on the page is there are the number of words on the page that follow the Fibonacci sequence. So the first page has one word. The second page has one word. The third page has 2 words. The fourth page has 3 words. So that's something that you can look for when I'm reading the book or not. You can just enjoy the story. So I'm going to start it out and I'll just say that Scholastic gave us permission. Scholastic is the publisher. They gave us permission to read the whole book live. So I'm going to do that. If you're watching the recording, we only have permission to read a very small percentage of the book. So I'm going to read up to that point, and then I'm going to stop, and you'll just have to go and get the book to read the rest. So, so here we go. I'm going to share the electronic version. All right, Leo plus Leah. And here's the title page, and you could see that Leo is waking up, and we'll see what happens with his day. Leo. Counting. If you're up close, you might notice there's a flower here. Maybe he's counting that one flower. 2 trees. 3 noisy squirrels. 5 big steps into school. 8 new classmates shout hello. Leo smiles back. Now, if you're watching the recording, I'm afraid I have to break away here. As you might imagine, Leo is perhaps not going to fit into school, and he's going to have to figure out a way to fit in, or maybe not. You'll see. But for everyone else, I will keep on going. 13 raindrops tap the window one autumn afternoon, and Leo counts them all. 21 words dance across the page. Leo usually likes to count the words aloud. Leo, his teacher says, count softly, please. 34 snowflakes silently drift down the winter morning. A new girl arrives. Leo, meet Leah, his teacher says. Leo is quiet, but when Leah smiles, he leans closer to see what she is doing. Oh my goodness, look at this playground. Leo, I think, is feeling a little intimidated. 55 daisies pop up in spring, and Leo wants to count them. But the playground feels too big and hard. Balls bounce, hands clap, children cheer. As squawking birds fill the sky, Leo's numbers jumble in his mind. And so he plugs his ears and tells his teacher he is going to find some peace. "34 stepping stones make a path." As recess ends, Leo's classmates leave their noisy games and join their teacher. Counting stones, they reach the schoolyard garden just in time to hear a happy shout. 21 leaves, Leo exclaims. Leah, I see a pattern. Leah beams and tells everyone, I love patterns. Want to see more? 13 blossoms burst from the page. Galaxies of petals spiral up and up. 8 chattering classmates gather petals to take inside. 5 fingers link each hand. 3 quick spins. 2 friends. Counting. Skyward. So that is the story. And that last word, skyward, I usually, if we were live, would get a little gasp because, we've returned to one word, and it's this mysterious word, skyward.
Yeah, no, I love that one. I definitely had that. I didn't gasp out loud, but like I did have that moment. And even when I've looked at the book before, like every time it just gets me. It's almost like a kind of like drift away kind of feeling that I got from that word. But yeah, thank you for reading to us.
So good.
Yeah, I think that last word probably affects everyone differently, and maybe depending on your mood too.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That is so true. It is such a beautiful word. And now that you mention with all this, because I had the feeling, but I don't think I could have named it. And now that you mentioned, I was like, yeah, I've had these feelings every time I've read that particular word. Thank you for naming that for me, for making it more tangible. And I know, Ken, too, that you have. I don't know if you wanted to share anything about the reading yet, or you wanted to jump into the art right away.
I'd like to first say that I love the writing, and I echo what you're saying, Peter. I never thought too much about the feelings I get from that word skyward. It's very optimistic and calming. I think I took it for granted, Monica. It's wonderful. That's a very specific word, isn't it? Skyward.
Yeah.
And it's that feeling that I wanted to show in the art. When I first got Monica's manuscript, I fell in love with it, and I think why I liked it was because of the words we're using. That it's optimistic, that it's elating, and it makes you feel at ease. And for the art, I really wanted to capture that feeling of calm, so that everyone could go into Leo plus Leah's world. And at first, because of the math, I thought maybe I should work with patterns or shapes that have something to do with the Fibonacci sequence that Monica talked about. But then I thought, well, why don't we do something a bit more I don't know, something a little less predictable. So I started playing with colors and how colors can match numbers. And at the very beginning, once upon a time, I thought I could try and understand hex codes. and that and I can't remember where I got that idea. I may have gotten it from an article. Well, in the computer, colors can have assigned numbers. The colors can have numbers with them, and it's the way computers could easily bring up the colors when you, let's say, use a painting program, or when you use something like Procreate or Photoshop. And I had lined up some colors with these numbers, but the colors didn't really look that good to me, and or at least I couldn't get it to work. But one color did stay, and I'm not going to try and remember that number that goes with that color, but we'll just call it turquoise. Okay, I'm going to show my screen now.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say too, like even when picking the color scheme for, like, say, our name tabs and everything, it gives me numbers on this. So you named something, Ken, that I've been doing, and I knew the two things. Like, I've heard of hex code, but I also knew like that I was using the numbers for the colors separately. So now it's like, oh yeah, so
yeah, it's you know, it's funny. I can't say I'm good at numbers, but I always try. But then there's always like this kind of like limit I reach. Like, oh, this is maybe too hard. But maybe you all could. I'm sure you could figure it out, but I couldn't. But that's the magic of Monica's writing. It challenges you, or it gets you interested. Because I did get into math after reading this. I was really into like patterns. It's really fun.
Yeah,
I think it's really fun. Okay, so this is one of the spreads at the very beginning, and you can see the art. Leo's walking with Dad, and like I can't remember exactly where, but somewhere, I think it's somewhere up here. There's a color that has a code that reflects the Fibonacci number sequence.
Hey, we're not seeing it yet.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
No.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm going to. That's strange. Everyone, hold on 1 second, please.
Yeah, and just a reminder to everybody that is joining in too, that we do have Ken Pack and of course Monica Wesolowska joining us today on Storytime, and we are reading. We just read the book, and then we're just talking about the art as well, and the creative process behind it all. This is Leah plus Leo, and please remember too to find them. You can find Ken Pack at those handles on Instagram at Ken Pack, and then of course you can find him at Pandagon. I think that's how you say it, but he'll be directing us .com for the website.
Yeah, so as I'm working on this, Gun is my Korean name.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, and Panda, it's a take on letters, switching letters around my name.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm having a little. Let's see. What happens if I?
No worries at all. And then you can Monica at MonicaWesolowska.com, at Monica Wesolowska on Instagram, as well as formerly Twitter, now X. You can find them at _Wesolowska. So yeah, please find them there. And thank you for being here with us on Storytime. And remember too, if you're able, grab that book from your local library and get to enjoy Leah plus Leah, and of course wherever else that you find books. Thank you so much for being here with us on Storytime.
And I just say I love what Ken was saying about the colors connected to the numbers, and how he wasn't really considering himself a math person, but then he found, I can play around with numbers and colors, because I think I know that for a lot of kids who feel like, maybe math isn't my favorite subject, that like, what do we use it for? well, actually, it's all around us, and so I don't think we often think about color with numbers, or music, or all these, or nature, which is why I thought it was a really cool metaphor, really, to have flower. The fact that flowers often have a Fibonacci number of petals is just really uh,
Yeah.
an amazing idea. Like, why are plants growing this way? Do they
Yeah.
do math?
Yeah, no, and you mentioned there's I encourage people to, when you get the book, please check out the author and illustrator notes as well at the back, because it does give us a little bit more insight into the thinking around the book, the approach to the book, which and also the math itself. And I did actually, like you're saying, it made me dig a little deeper, and this is something that actually has come up. Actually, I think that might have been our Halloween costume last year. We were the Fibonacci sequence as a math department.
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember what number I was, but yeah. But then too, like, and yeah, if I join in, if I'll be directing my coworkers today to this one, something to watch for break, so they can enjoy this book too. But I did put up there's an article that I just copy pasted. The link is in your feed right now, and it's just goes on to show some of the ways in which the Fibonacci sequence shows up in our daily lives, whether it's through petals, like you mentioned, and all the different things. So I thought
Well, yeah, it's such a great thing to use in schools for so many reasons. When I go to school visits, I usually go way back in the history, because people sometimes think that the Fibonacci sequence was somehow invented or named by the medieval mathematician that we now call Fibonacci, who's very important. He introduced Roman numerals to the West, but that's not where it started. I mean, math patterns aren't invented, really. And it was centuries before that in India that an Indian mathematician named Pingala was describing this pattern in syllables of Sanskrit poetry. So that's really cool, because, in schools, you can write using the Fibonacci sequence, kind of like we teach haiku. Anything that has a constraint can be a really good way to teach writing, because if you're limited, it actually can stimulate creativity.
Yeah, and just to, as we're talking, Ken will send me an email of the work that he's going to share, and I will be sharing it up here. So while Ken is doing that, we'll continue to just share a little bit more about Fibonacci series and everything else. And Monica, I had a question for you too, and Ken too, of course. Feel free, please, to jump in once that is sent. But it is say in here, I was just thinking as I was reading the book, and in what ways, because I know you mentioned them at the beginning, but if we could just go back to them, in what ways is the Fibonacci series depicted in this book? So
Right. Yeah. So it's super subtle. So, as I said, the main way is that the words on the page increase by way of the Fibonacci sequence. So, the first page there, and this was a big challenge in writing the book. Let me tell you, the first page has only one word: Leo.
Yeah.
The second page has only one word: counting. It was really hard to write a book that starts with so few words. Whereas in the middle, what happens is I get to 55 words in the middle. So Leo is completely overwhelmed. And then he runs off, and the words start descending on the page, so that we, as you all saw, end the book with one word: skyward. That in itself is I wasn't sure the effect it would have on kids, but in fact, or on anyone, but as readers, even if you don't notice that the words are increasing and decreasing, and a lot of people don't notice, I think a lot of reviewers didn't even notice, there is a kind of a sense you have. something's going on here. Of course, every sentence starts with every page starts with the number, so that kind of clues you in. So that's one way. Ken's going to talk, well, he talked about how he kind of used a color pattern, that he used colors that came from the Fibonacci sequence. But yeah, when I first sent the book out, I kind of assumed an illustrator would do some more obvious Fibonacci pattern making. But in fact, what he did instead, and to me, this is really incredible. And once he comes back, maybe we can ask him more about that. He did these all
I'm bringing
sorts
him back right now so he can join in that conversation too.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I'll just finish this, Ken. Maybe you can answer this as part of your presentation. We were just talking about, other ways that the pattern shows up. And I was saying how you did all this amazing job of creating other kinds of patterns. So in this spread, 21 words, the teacher is reading a book and the kids are sitting in a circle listening to her. And I didn't notice until I'd been reading the book for a while that when we return to 21 words, because, the book is symmetrical, this time it's 21 leaves. And instead of the teacher teaching the kids, Leo is teaching everyone. It's so moving to me that there's this parallel illustration, a pattern that's repeated, but it's shifted. And I want to cry about it. That Leo is has really not just found a way to express himself, but a way to express himself that he cares about so much that he will actually talk to the whole class. Really beautiful.
I think one of the great things in how we talk to each other and how we get to know each other or express ourselves is it often happens without us noticing it at first. And like what Monica was saying, how she went back to the book, and maybe you too, Peter, maybe you've noticed other details that you maybe see things later or maybe at the moment, but you're not exactly sure. Yeah. I love that. I love it when that happens to us. Yeah. And I try to put that in the book. And sometimes it happens by accident. Monica, I did that on purpose. I did this little circle turn. Yeah. And I thought it'd be fun. At one point, I even tried to make it like a clock to match the Fibonacci sequence, but I didn't want to. And Monica, like you were saying, originally I did have like spirals and the boxes and the patterns, but I thought it'd be more fun if we had a different way of doing it. But I didn't want to make it complicated or make it too, I guess fussy is a good word. At least what I had in my mind was getting too fussy. So yeah, I want to drop hints and like little sneaky Easter eggs for people to find if they happen to notice it or if they wanted to go back. So and that's the same with the color work. Now, Monica, thank you so much for pointing that out because I had it's also a treat for me to go back to the art because sometimes just because all this other stuff happens, I might forget. So it's good to see it again. That's wonderful. Now, everyone, I want to show you what's on my computer, but just like life things that happen that you're not, you're not sure of. So, but I just sent Peter an image, and we can go over that. And I want to talk a little bit about the colors Monica mentioned. So
yeah, all right, here we go. I'll bring that right up. But yeah, and I also just wanted to share too that Chad mentions, and as you're talking to Ken, it just reminds me of that, like the fractals. I'm like, oh yeah, I see it totally. Which Chad out in Natchitoches, Louisiana, was saying that. Really
yeah, that's so cool, Chad. Thanks for that question. And actually, this is a really interesting moment for me because I'm someone who, as a little girl, didn't feel like math could be my thing, and I really went full on into storytelling. So I can't answer that question. And I think that maybe Mr. LaMotta, you could just talk a tiny bit about what Chad is noticing between the similarity between fractals and the Fibonacci sequence. Are you able to address that at all?
Well, no, not in a way that I would be comfortable really right now. I would want to definitely read more and get back to you, Chad. But like just the patterns themselves. And what I can say is whether they are in that sequence, whether it is going by the numbers that we have, but it is you see the spiral shapes in there, you see the minuscule, you have the kind of like the micro patterns, and then you also have the larger pattern that is happening, unfolding as well. So you get to see all those little bits.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Right, because that's the thing about the Fibonacci the Fibonacci spiral is that you can see it. It's one of those spirals where you can start it at any place and see it expanding in similar ways. People talk about the Fibonacci spiral, seeing it everywhere, and that's not necessarily actually mathematically true. That the Nautilus shell may not actually be an actual Fibonacci spiral, but because it increases in a particular way, but visually, we can feel that we're seeing that spiral in all sorts of places. Yeah.
No, that's so true. Well, Chad, great question for sure. And Chad loves patterns. Well, I love it.
Yeah. So I hope Chad can tell us, more patterns that he finds in the book.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So let's bring up Ken's art here so we can have more conversation on that. Ken,
there we go.
yeah.
So patterns. Yeah, patterns are great because they're fun to look at. You can count them, and you could see the same shapes over and over again. And at one point, I think I had a lot of patterns, but I think I wanted to make it a little more subtle in my book. But I think in our book, I think I just focused on the color work, and see how like all the colors are a little faded, a little kind of not your usual bright green, or if it's like a really like the pink of the flower. They're all influenced by that those hex code colors I originally talked about, because I noticed in that I noticed in that lineup of colors, which is long lost somewhere in my computer, that there was this particular look, and that influenced a lot of the imagery in the book. And if you look at the other page, there's some pages that are almost all turquoise, that kind of like bluey, minty green color. That's the one color I kept because I thought it was so interesting. And it's long since corrected that, but when I did work on this book, I don't know how they figured this out, but the scientists, astronomers, had concluded at that point that the color of the universe was turquoise. It's been changed to latte. So I'm not sure how they figure these things out. I'm sure it has something to do with like atoms and really, 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 really tiny particles. But I like the idea of the universe being turquoise. So I put a lot of that color in the sky throughout the book. And then what I did is I took that and then just kind of mixed it, the turquoise, with some of the other colors. There was a really dark purple, like in Leo's hair and his pants. Actually, it's like a really deep purple. It's almost black. And I kept that, and I used that to contrast it. And I love working with textures. I think textures are really, really fun. And a lot of that is, I'll have to show everyone at another time when I could have a Photoshop presentation. A lot of those textures are actually photographs I took of, I think that's cement. Like I took a picture of the sidewalk that was outside. And then on Photoshop, I put it over the colors to just give it kind of that nice, kind of almost fuzzy, I guess we'll call it, like feeling. Just I went through a lot of different textures, because sometimes textures can look really gritty or a little too in your face. So I think I went through maybe a dozen until I found a texture that I really, really, really liked. And my art has to be graphic. I like working with simple shapes, and I think that works with the math. Not that math is hard and tough, but I think a lot of math is about simplification and trying to determine like a set of rules, and I think and then you just think of like rulers and lines, and I thought it'd be a perfect match with Monica's writing. So yeah, for this book, I work in the animation business, so every time I work in picture books, I try to do the opposite of whatever I'm doing at work. So at work I have to light things a lot. What I mean is I have to make things look like photographs. So when I work on picture books, I try to stay away from making things look too realistic. So I use really simple shadows, like on Dad, and you can see a little bit on Leo. And I don't put almost no shadows in the background, just because I like how it's more simple and more fun. So there's some shadow on the ground, just so it looks like they're existing in the space. And the sidewalk's almost basically just this really simple shape. So everyone who's into art, there's one way of doing art. You can simplify things into really, really simple statements, and you don't have to get too much into it. And if you want, you could say, I'm going to make the sidewalk a really simple shape. So it's just this long rectangle. And then maybe if I want details, I could just put it all, let's say, in the trees. So if you look at some of the trees, like that batch that's right in front of them, next to the house, there's all these really complicated branches. So and there's some complicated branches towards the left, and that kind of cradles Leo and his dad. And of course, the house, your eye goes right to the house because of the windows. So you got lots of detail there, and then you got this really simple graphic statement with the sidewalk, just to give your eye a relief, and of course the sky. So yeah, all of that, thinking about the graphic design and the textures, and me just playing with the colors, that was influenced by hex codes, the hex code numbers that were picked out that looked like they had something to do with the Fibonacci sequence, and the result was this book. And it all happened without me planning anything really specifically. It just kind of happened, like it's kind of like going into a maze or wandering around in a field. You don't know which direction you're going, but you just eventually find your path. And it was so much fun to work on it.
Yeah, no, it's just that one page, and I feel like there's so much more that we could dive into all the different pages. Which brings me to my next question, though. Both for you, Monica, and for you, Ken, in this one, like, we're working with the Fibonacci series or spiral, and it has it can go on forever, right? So there's that freedom that it has. But then for you, was it liberating or was it limiting to work with such a specific thing?
Yeah, well, certainly as the writer, this book took me a really long time, I like to say it actually took 13 years from inspiration to actual publication.
Wow.
That's a Fibonacci number. It took 5 years from the time I sold it to the time it came out. That's a Fibonacci number. So I was actually only working on it for 8 years. Well, and really probably, and it was off and on. And I was working on other things. But every time I had to make a change in the plot or the characters, I spent so much time counting. In fact, here, I'll show you this, because I did
Okay.
at the end. Right. Perfect. So this gives you an idea. Let's see that it's blocking my thing. I can't get it to go back to.
Oh, I could try. Where did you want to go here?
Oh, here now it's letting me. Okay. Well, so yeah, so my first conception, this is the very first page. I think this says the date on it is like January 10th, I think. January 2010. So like a long time ago. So I wrote
again.
What's that?
No, I was just saying, Chad, when were you born again?
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. I talk to kids about that. I go in and I read it to a first grade class and I say, I worked on it, for longer than you've been alive. Actually, I started it when my older son was in kindergarten. Yeah. I was inspired by a boy who just loved math, didn't want story time, And, I thought, God, could I write a story that he would like? Well, that boy just left to go to college at
Wow.
Princeton to study math. So, but anyway, this, for example, is my very first try. Math, good. No more dinosaurs. Ben wanted to do math. You could see it's completely different, very boring. And I got the math all wrong because I wrote one word, then 3 words, then 5. I forgot 2.
Oh.
Here's another page where you can see I actually typed it out so you could read my terrible handwriting, but I literally was just trying over and over. Frank, Frank once, Frank alone, boy, upon, Frank school. I mean, I was going nuts trying to figure out how to get the story to go. And for a while, it was much more kind of like Ken. It was much more obvious. I had Leo kind of build a Fibonacci spiral, and I had him talk to the teacher about the Fibonacci spiral, and I had his parents come in and talk about math with the teacher. And I thought, that's not this kind of book. This is really just a friendship story. And that a kid who doesn't feel that school interests him is given room to be himself. And that was the beautiful thing about this kindergarten teacher with the kid who just wanted to do math. The teacher said, okay, if you don't like story time, you can do math during story time. Like, that's such a gift to him. And it worked out for him. That's his passion in life. So that was the kind of story I wanted ultimately to write, is just this story of a kid who's allowed to be himself in the classroom, and lo and behold, discovers someone else who is being herself in her own way. Leah just wants to draw. She's drawing patterns. He recognizes the patterns. They have this bond over her drawings and nature together. So they find room to grow together. And that's the thing about the Fibonacci sequence, is that scientists speculate that flowers use this pattern to give themselves adequate room to grow, to get light and air and water. And so I thought, the pattern gives room to Leo and Leah to grow into themselves, to blossom. So that, yes, the constraint was really difficult, but it also pushed me to do something bigger than myself. That final word, skyward, that probably took me 6 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but when I wrote it down, the second I wrote it down, I was like, oh, that's it.
Oh, I love it.
I love it when that happens, when something takes a long time and there's a search, and sometimes you let it go or forget about it or come back to it, and then it happens one day. And it can happen when you're anywhere, waiting in line or just hanging out.
Right. That's why you have to just be open to listening to yourself, and also not understanding yourself. I thought, skyward, what does that mean? Why is that the perfect word? I don't know, but I'm going to put it in there. And then, when I read it to kids, and I just love, like, I ask them, what do you think? Why does the book end that way? And some kids will say, one kid said, because numbers go on forever. So for her, it was very expansive. For another kid, it was more about how Leo and Leah have found kind of their place in the universe. They're boundless. They can go as far as they want. So yeah, it's I think it's a word that leaves a lot.
Yeah. And there you go too. You're saying Chad was born in 2014.
Right.
I love it. And
It's 2014. It seems like yesterday, but also seems like a long time ago.
Right. I remember 2014. I think the big thing I remember was being in Mexico watching the World Cup. That was the 2014 was the Brazil World Cup.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was the Brazil when hosted, and I remember watching that at this one restaurant. It was just good time, good times. Good
Hey,
time.
and I'm just going to jump in too, because I saw that Pamela said, quoted a galaxy of flowers
Mhm.
and this is another moment where Ken interpreted something, and I think, differently than I would have, and which is like the magic of the collaboration.
Right.
This was also a hard page for me, but it's 13 blossoms burst from the page, galaxies of petals spiral up and up.
Mhm. Mhm.
What Ken did was he made this Leah's illustration.
Love that.
And I had just thought, oh, nature's exploding, galaxies of petals. I was being very poetic. And he literally had Leah, and then he had her hold, this is Leah holding the book, It's like Ken and I aren't here anymore. It's the character,
Yeah.
which is so cool.
Yeah, I really wanted so much of the book, and I love that word skyward, because so much of the book is about letting yourself go through friendship and community and the limitless possibilities. And I didn't make that connection with the Fibonacci sequence. Like the Fibonacci sequence goes on forever. But I did very much want this, especially for Leah's point of view, that her creativity, what's coming from inside of her, can go beyond. She has her book and everything she has, and it correlates with Leo's numbers. But it can just go out past all of us, up to the sky, up to the universe, and so much of the book is about that. Is that all the math? Because a lot of people think of math as being very highly structured, and it is. But if you look at it another way, and when we use our imagination, it is very expansive. It is very much part of nature. It is around us.
Oh,
And
I love that you mentioned that too, because it is. And a lot of times, one of the approaches that I like is when kids are given activities, or just math learners in general, whether adults or kids, like given learning opportunities, given situations, and they get to go through them with the natural language that they have, just the natural skill set, and then afterwards bring it back to then name those things that they were coming through. Because a lot of times I feel like the way math was taught, at least the way I was taught, was always they give you the definition and this, and so you're kind of then stuck in that world without really exploring it. But I love that bit of just being able to explore and
yeah,
seeing how math exists in space, and then you then name it, and like what you just did here is this, or this pattern that you're seeing, the relationship is this. For example, mentioning, like Chad mentioned, fractals and the Fibonacci sequence. It's just that sort of relationship. I love that. And that's the
yeah.
thing that we've been trying to do at work too, really, to push this learning of math that can happen in kind of a natural way, more student voice led, and exploration. But yeah, I love that. And talking of just existing, one of the things that I love is it mentions on the book and the back. I don't know how much you all had a part in writing the synopsis, but it does say the beautiful friendship story, inspired by the Fibonacci sequence and cleverly constructed using its mathematical pattern, celebrates different ways of seeing and being in the world, as well as how math connects us to one another. But just that part too, about celebrates different ways of seeing and being in the world. How did that resonate with you, and why was that important? Because I know that the character in here is neurodiverse. So how did you go about presenting that, and how did that affect your art, Ken?
I was very thoughtful of how there was a lot for me to learn about neurodiversity. I have a lot of friends that are neurodiverse, and I work with creatives. I think it's something I've grown to accept and I understand. So the book itself was kind of a learning curve for me to learn more about it as I read more about it. So to answer your question, Peter, I think it was a learning thing, and it's an ongoing thing. But I think I specifically thought about my friend's son, and there is a calm that the parents look for. His name is Hogan, and that's what I brought to the book. I don't, with my own naivete, I don't know if that is exactly is that if that's the right word, but I know that it's something that I wanted to explore. And for Leo, I know that his interest was numbers, and I stuck with that. And I know for Leah, I know her interest was in her book. But I think what I want, where the calm was in not just only their friendship in their world, and that's why I have a lot of sky, and that's why I have a lot of nature there. And I associate that with that word calm.
Yeah.
So that's how I took it. It was like this learning process for me.
Yeah, no, you mentioned a lot of things in there, just the learning, the ongoing process. And having been in the classroom myself, like it's always a learning process and just, um, yeah, like we have to grow. And I've always wondered too at times that I appreciated when I saw how you approached it in here. And I want to hear from you too, Monica. And I see too, like, I mean, you brought in a person, Ken, and like that you're then able to add to that, and a person that you love, and that also just creates, I think, this character that we're seeing makes it even more special, because that comes out for us, like at least for me it comes out. I feel it. You can see that there's a humanizing element that is presented with the art, with the character, or even the time they need to take the space. And like, and them being given that space. And I feel like sometimes in school that's what lacks sometimes, where there's always this one shoe fits all kind of approach. And so to think of that, like the way you represented that, and the teacher to being able to allow that space that the child needed, I think it's just powerful that you presented that. But yes, Monica, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely related to Leo in the sense that I was a kid who just was bewildered by the noise of the playground, Oxford School in Berkeley. If anyone's curious what that grammar school was, and just kind of finding a little corner where I could sit and play with leaves is actually what I did. So that's how I found calm on the playground. And so the book kind of builds to that central chaotic playground where Leo has the skills to say to his teacher, I am going to find some peace. And that was a big, that was where I was working with an editor. I was working with sensitivity readers. Like that whole transition was really important, because we didn't just want Leo to kind of be lost and alone in that moment without agency. And we didn't want him to, wouldn't want it to be too scary. And this was actually, for Ken, he had to make a big sacrifice. He had some really beautiful imagery of power lines and a huge open field. And I felt like Leo wasn't contained enough, and that it was a little too scary. And so he took out those power lines and he actually put a very subtle fence. I mean, you could barely see it, but to really make sure that Leo was going somewhere in nature. So he goes to the orchard and to the trees that have the Fibonacci number of apple blossom petals. So that's a Fibonacci moment right there, is Leo running from the chaos of the playground and finding the containment he needs in this orchard. So that was how I very consciously thought through what would happen for a child who's neurodiverse and feeling a need for some kind of soothing that is not happening on the playground.
That was Monica. That was I think that was the right call. I think in retrospect, it's funny. When I was little, that was my place of calm. It was not that far, but at a distance from my old house, there were these power lines. And I'd actually run there. And so it was kind of more me revisiting my little place.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to Tracy, she was our editor, thinking, actually, that might be foreboding or even distracting, definitely distracting. So I think we made the right call.
Yeah, but that's so beautiful to know that it came from your own personal sense of calm. And I think that's such an interesting thing about art, is that we really do have to draw from ourselves, but then in revision, we sometimes have to modify what we've drawn from ourselves so that it translates, so that other people feel what we're feeling.
You know what this is telling me is like what we need is a gallery for this book where we can, just have all the art that could have been, and so we get to see that as well, and even all the writing that could have been. Like it just sounds amazing.
Yes, looking at old art is always a treat to me because I tend to change my style from book to book or even week to week, so it's always fun. So let's do it.
Yeah. The Ken and Monica Museum gallery
that
show.
Sounds great. Yeah, I want to see more excerpts from you, Monica. That was fascinating. Those early thoughts and
yes, you would be astounded at how many iterations. He went from Ben to Ken to Frank to Leo to
Oh, I love it. And Ken, we cannot mention Ken and not bring up the Barbie movie. I feel like we have to. Well, at least I feel I have to. But one of the things I was going to say was, were you the only Ken in your classroom or at your school?
I was the only Ken, and I did get, and I never took it the wrong way. I always thought it was fun. I always thought that joke was really fun, and just because, like, I don't know, like, Barbie's a pretty lady, and I get to be Ken.
Ken's cool.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? I when the movie came out, I thought like, oh, it's gonna come back, but maybe it was my own, I don't know, narcissism. I just thought, oh, everyone's gonna just talk about Ken and Barbie with me.
But
no one. But actually, Peter, you're the first person to bring it up. So,
and then we'll see the kids that will be named after Ken now. We'll see how many will be there running around.
Here's a fun story. My name Kenard is a play on Kenneth and Howard. My parents couldn't choose between the two, so they put the two together. So I always joke I could have been Howard.
Oh, wow. That is interesting. Yeah, no, I wondered, but then when I typed in, every time I typed in, like, the computer would just, like, auto suggest. And
is that true?
Yeah. So I was reading, I was like, oh, then it must be one. Like, it's the first time I've heard it, but I was just interesting to see, like, that the computer auto suggested it. So I'm like, oh, then it must be a name that is there out there, or at least the system has. You're in the system, Ken.
Yeah, I am in the system. I have met one other Kenard before.
Yeah.
And he spelled his name with 2 N's. I thought that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you two, we could go on and on. Like, a question I had for you, and I was thinking this: have you tried it, or do you think there is the Fibonacci, or for, say, working in base 5, or in other, because since we're using the 10, right, for hours, base 10, but I just wondered, like, in base 5, have you tried any of that yet, or any of it? But just another different word that your book took me into yesterday. I was just like, oh yeah, how about if it were in base 5, what would
I love it. You just go and you think math, Mr. LaMotta. You just go wild with the math. I mean, that's no, I can't talk about base 5 or base 10, really. I mean, I understand the concept, and I'm curious about it. But yeah, that's what I want the book to do. Is I want it to both be exciting for math people to think about math, but also for all those people who've never felt like math is really their thing to realize, oh, it's in the nature all around us. I think is really moving.
Yeah. Well, to sign off, like, it's been so great just having you both here. And again, just a reminder to everybody that's joining us that we've had Kenard back here with us on Storytime, as well as Monica Wesolowska, and their book we're celebrating today, Leo plus Leah. And this one we're reading with permission of Scholastic Press. So thank you so much. Find it at your local library. Find it where you find books. And for those of you that will be joining us for the recording later on, of course, you will be joining in and only getting an excerpt of the book. And for those of you that were here live, I hope you got to enjoy that. And I hope that it sends you into all those different ways, whether it's fractals, best five, wherever you go, friendship, whatever else, feelings, like just takes you back to your own childhood to connect, to reconnect with those feelings that bring you calm. Whatever it does, I hope that, it is just the beginning of that exploration. Thank you so much for being here with us. And what's happening with you today? Having a chess tournament on Porch today. Well, good luck to you. I love it, Megan and Ari. Thank you. I love how this book shows kids getting to follow their passions. Thanks for sharing how this story came into being. Well, thank you so much. That's why we bring these creatives out here, so they can tell us, they can share all these amazing thinking behind it that and we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. But thank you so much for being here. And just to close out, what's next for you, Ken? What's next for you, Monica?
You first, Monica.
Oh gosh. Well, I am working hard and I have no new books coming out on the pipeline, but that's not through lack of effort. So, writing is a slow, long process, but I will certainly let you know as soon as I have another book coming out. I mean, I do have a book that came out after Leo plus Leah, which is Albert in the Air, and that is on Storytime as well. So people should check out Albert in the Air, illustrated by Jerome Pumphrey. But yes, otherwise you're just gonna have to keep your ear to the wind to hear news of upcoming books.
Yeah, I love it. Ken?
I'm working on 2 books right now, and one is the last of the seasonal series. It's Goodbye Spring, Hello Summer. Right, so that's I've been working on that for like forever, and finally getting around to that. And then there's a after that, there's a book about forks.
Forks?
Yeah, forks, different kinds of forks.
Oh wow, no, really looking forward to that. And when are they projected to be out?
Not for a while, probably within the next couple years. I think that's a good wide net I can throw.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, we'll be looking forward to them. Thank you so much for being here with us on Story.
Of course, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Oh, look at this, Ken, before you go. This is what you are doing right now. Okay. That guy is sketching. Sketch that
That's great. That's great, Pamela. Right on, Chad. That's great.
I love it. I love it. Exactly what story time is for, and indeed what I'm sure both of you, as you dive into your work, I'm sure this is part of the joy, right? Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. All right. So I will catch you in the backstage, and for now we'll be signing off. Thank you so much for being here. Please, everybody, this has been Story Time. We've had Ken Pack with us, and of course Monica Wesolowska as well. And this has been Story Time for today. This has been Story Time on this wonderful Tuesday morning. I hope that it's been wonderful for you as well where you are, and I hope that the rest of the day is just as beautiful, if not better. Thank you so much for joining us on Storytime. Please remember to check in on a loved one, even if it's just a little hello, a phone call, something that makes a huge difference indeed. I know I always feel so much better when I hear from my loved ones. Thank you so much for being here. And remember too, as we exist in the world, just like the book says, right? Celebrating different ways of seeing and being in this world. Remember that we share the world with many other people, many other creatures, and we have to create space. We have to find space to make welcoming spaces, safe spaces for all. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. This has been a Matthew Tuesday morning, beautiful Tuesday morning, great conversations, beautiful people here with us, taking their time to come and share their craft, to come and share their feelings and all the love that has gone into making this wonderful book. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime, and please be sure to follow them on their socials. Be sure to follow them at their websites. Go through, check out newsletters, sign up for them so you can see all things coming from Monica and Ken. This has been Storytime for today. This has been story time on this wonderful Tuesday morning. Much love from me. Hugs to each and every one of you. And I will see you again tomorrow. At least that's the plan. All powers be allowing. We'll be here tomorrow with another exciting story and another exciting guest when we bring you Good Night Ganesha, coming to us from Nadia Solomon and Poonam Mystery. But Nadia Solomon will be here with us on story time. So get excited. Remember to join us tomorrow. Much love from me. Bye-bye.
Story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely. Won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Lamada. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely. Won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing. We'll be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Lamada, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely. Won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be hearing. Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely. Won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be hearing.